successfully, and that is the radius. So if you take a look at the sphere's notes here, whoops, that's the wrong way. Okay. If you take a look on the side there, where it's a sphere, you've got the volume formula. Now, the volume formula of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Now, all of that, excuse me, is multiplication. You just multiply straight across. The only thing you need to know is the radius. Now, you can write it this way, 4/3 pi r cubed, or an easier way to write it is if you put the 4, the pi, and the r cubed on the top, and then put the 3 on the bottom. So you do 4 times pi times r cubed, and then divide the whole thing by 3. That's going to make your life a little bit easier when you go to plug and chug into your calculator. Okay, so everything goes on the top first. You do that multiplication straight across, and then you divide by 3. So the only thing you need to know in order to do a sphere is the radius. That's it. And if you know the radius, you just plug it into your calculator. So let's take a look at number 1. What is the radius for number 1? 8. The radius is 8. Now also realize that that radius is the same radius all around the circle. So from any point of the edge to the center, the radius is 8. We're going to take that number, we're just going to plug it into this equation right here. 4 pi times 8 cubed divided by 3. That's my volume formula. So we're straight up just going to use our calculators. You have literally no work to do. The only thing you have to do is put it into your calculator. Now, depending on what calculator you use, there's 2 different ways that you can plug it in. If you are using your phone, you probably have a cubed button, so you can use that. If you're using the pink, your 2 calculators, I don't know if there's a cubed button. There might be. You have one? Do you have one, Cameron? No. You have like a little caret. It's a little arrow that points upwards. So you'd put 8, and then you'd put the little caret, and you'd put the 3 button, 8 to the 3rd. You have a cubed button, you can use that. If you've got the black calculators, you can use, and so maybe I would write down, like for you guys, what buttons you're pushing for your calculators. If you're going to use the black calculator, there's 2 different ways to use it. There's one right above this little arrow, it says x cubed, but I like to use this x to the y button, because you could put it to any power that you wanted to. You could put it to the 3rd power, the 4th power, the 5th power, the 6th power. That's what this little button means. So when you go to put it into your calculator, you're going to push the 8. You're going to push the x to the y, which says which power, and then you're going to push 3, which means to the 3rd power. So you're going to push those 3 buttons to be x to the 3rd. That means, or sorry, 8 to the 3rd. That means 8 times 8 times 8. Okay, so if you're going to put this in your calculator, you should be able to go directly across on top and then divide it by 3 at the end. So use your calculator, put it in, you're just going straight across the calculator. 4 times pi times 8 to the 3rd equals, so on the top you should get 6,433. And then I take that number and divide it by 3. I get 2144. Did anybody not get that? 2144. We all got it. Yeah? Okay, good. So the volume is 2144. We're running to the nearest hundredth, so that I should put what? Whoa. 66. Hundredth is 2 decimal places, so look at it as a 2-digit number. The number after 66 is a 0, so I leave it as 66. And what should I put as my label? Meters cubed. So volume is always cubed, no matter what. All right. Easy peasy, right? So it's just a problem for your calculator. Now, let's jump down to 3, and then you're going to do 2 and 4. What do you notice about number 3?
Gives you diameter.
What? Number 3?
Oh, it's upside down.
Oh.
It's upside down, and it's not half a circle. It's not a semisphere. That's not what we call it. We live in the northern hemisphere. There you go. Hemisphere. You're on the right track, but technically speaking, semisphere is not a word. But it was a good try. A good try. Now, if I have a hemisphere, what does that mean I'm going to do with my volume? Divide it by 2 when you're done. So find the volume of the whole sphere first, and then when you're done, divide it by 2, and that'll give you the hemisphere. Okay, easy peasy. Did I give you the diameter or the radius for number 3? I gave you the radius, 10.8. So my volume is pi radius cube, 4 pi radius cubed divided by 3. So my volume is 4 pi 10.8 cubed divided by 3. Okay, so do that first. Get the volume of your sphere. And then take that number when you're done with it, divide it by 2. All right, so I'm going to give you a moment. I'm going to let you plug it in. We'll see if we get the same thing. All right, did you get that number? 2,638? Huh? 0.33? It's 30 what? Yeah? Did I write something wrong? Oh. You sure? Okay. All right, so the whole sphere was the 5,276, and then I take that number, I divide it by 2, that gives me my hemisphere. Okay, so you still have the original formula, you just divide by 2 and you're done with it. Okay, you got 2 more problems, number 2 and number 4. You're going to finish those 2, and then we'll check them. Excuse me, and we'll see if we get the same answer. All right, be very careful. What did I give you in number 2 and number 4? I gave you diameter, so what do you have to do to find the radius? Take half of it. Good. All right, so you finish up number 2 and number 4, and then we're going to check them in a minute. And when you're done, just put your pencil down so now you're ready to rumble. another minute to finish up. All right, let's check our work. So for number 2, you should have gotten 696.91 yards cubed. And for number 4, the sphere was 12,770, but the hemisphere was 6,385. All right, what questions can I answer? Because I see a couple faces of like, whoa. What do you mean? Which one? For number 3, so I found the volume of the sphere first, right? So I used the radius. I just plugged it into the equation, 4 times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. That gave me the volume of the whole sphere. And then to find the hemisphere, I took that number and divided it by 2. I took half of it. So I followed the regular formula first, and then I divided by 2 when I was completely done with it. Good question. Be careful with number 2 that you used 5.5 for your radius. And be careful for number 4 that you used 14.5 for your radius. I gave you the diameter in both of those, not the radius, so you had to take half. Okay, what other questions can I answer for you? Are we feeling pretty okay on spheres? It's not too hard because all I really have to do is plug in the radius. The rest of it's your calculator. All right, when you're done with that little half sheet, you can put that away. We're going to move on to our last section now. I've got another paper for you. You didn't think Miss Mouse was just going to give you 4 problems, did you? Come on. In what world would I ever give you only 4 problems? You know me too well by now. Come on. All right, and for my online folks, you guys can just scroll down on that document. We're going to start on the one that says 11.5. Oh man. All right, so now this is our final section because the final section is word problems. Oh yeah. It is just word problems about all of the different types of shapes because your final exam, which is in about 20 days, is all word problems. So we want to make sure that we get really good at doing some word problems here. And as we go through each one of these problems, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to help you out the first one, and that's really going to be about it. You're going to do most of these problems on your own. I'm going to help you read through the problem. I'm going to talk you through what I would do. I'm going to underline all the important information. I'm going to read the question more than once. I'm going to ask myself some questions as we work through. These types of questions are the questions you're going to need to ask yourself as you're doing these word problems. Because like I said, your final exam is essentially all word problems. Okay, so I think the more we do, the better you're going to feel about them. So we're going to spend today, tomorrow, potentially Thursday as well, doing these word problems. All right. So we're going to start together with number 1. You are going to make sure you show work for each one. We're going to label the picture with all the information that we know, and we're going to round all of our answers to the nearest hundredth unless otherwise told. So unless I say round to the nearest tenth, Just assume that you're rounding to the nearest hundredth for every one. So let's get started on our first problem. Before we even look at number one, you've got a picture right there with number one. What do you notice about the picture? The radius of the tennis ball is 3. 10. It's a cylinder with 3 spheres in it, so you should already be thinking about what's the formula for a cylinder, what's the formula for a sphere. Good. All right. So the question says, 3 tennis balls are stacked vertically to the top of a cylindrical container. The radius of each ball and the radius of the container is 3 centimeters. Before we read the question, let's underline what's important. What part of that question is important? Radius of the ball is 3 centimeters. Good. What else is important? What kind of container is it? Cylindrical just means a cylinder. It's a cylinder container. That's important. What else is important? One more thing. There's 3 tennis balls. Yes. Okay. So we know the radius of the ball. We know the radius of the container is also 3. So I'm even going to add in a 3 over here because I know the radius of my container is 3. All right, so let's read letter A. It says, determine the volume of the cylinder container. Round to the nearest hundredth. So the first thing I have to do is find the volume of a cylinder. How do I do that? Look up at the board. It's up there. Pi r squared times the height. Good. So volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So you have to know both the radius and the height. What's the radius you're going to plug in? 3. What's the height you're going to plug in?
18.
Mateo said the same thing. Mateo, why is it 18?
Because if the radius is 3, the diameter is 6, that goes all the way around, including vertically.
Beautiful. Bless you. So Mateo just told us that the radius is 3. That means the full diameter is 6. That means also, like he said, from the top to the bottom, that's also 6 centimeters, right? Because radius and diameter of a ball is the same vertical as it is horizontal. It's the same all the way around. So if this height is 6 centimeters, that means this height is 6 centimeters. That means this height is 6 centimeters. In total, the height is 6 plus 6 plus 6, which is 18. Very nice. So that's not going to be given to you. Stuff like that is going to have to be stuff that you figure out on your own. So the height is 18. All right, so now you've got the radius, you've got the height. You should be able to figure out the volume of the cylinder. So take your calculator, plug it in. Let's see if we get the same volume of a cylinder. So you're doing pi times 3 squared times 18. What did you get? Beautiful. I even like that you said centimeters cubed. So I got 508.93, and then the number after the 93 is an 8, so you round it up to be 94. So the volume of the cylinder, and notice that I wrote like a little C next to it to show that it's the cylinder volume, right? Because we know there's some spheres. I don't want to get my things mixed up, so I label them. So the volume of the cylinder is 508.94 4 centimeters cubed. Good. Now you've got the first part of the question done. So on the test, you're going to see multiple parts to each question. You just solved the first part. Good. Number 2, determine the volume of 1 tennis ball. 1 tennis ball. Now, tennis ball is what shape? Sphere. It's a ball, right? This is a sphere. I want to know the volume of just one of the tennis balls. So what formula am I going to use if it's a sphere? Beautiful. 4/3 pi r cubed is what I'm going to use. 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. And what number am I going to plug in for the radius? 3. 3. Good. All right, so plug that into your calculator, see what you get. Well, that would just be 3 cubed. But you still got to do this whole thing. Yeah, I'm telling the whole volume. All right, what did you get for the volume of 1 tennis ball rounded to the nearest hundredth? Beautiful. So it's 113.09. The number after is a 7, so we round 9 up to be 10. 113.10. Technically 0.1 is the same thing, but 0.10 centimeters cubed. Great. So now you've got the volume of one of the balls. Good. Last part, letter C. Determine the volume of the cylindrical container not taken up by the tennis balls. In other words, I want to know the air pockets. Beautiful. So I want to know this space over here that's left over. And say that a little louder, Cameron. What did you say to do? Why are you multiplying the volume of one ball by 3? Because there's 3 of them. Very good. So this is just the volume of 1 tennis ball. There are 3 tennis balls. So you have to take this number and multiply it by 3 to get the volume of all 3 of them. So if I take that number and multiply it by 3, 339.3. Good. So that's the volume of 3 tennis balls. So to find the leftover space, I'm going to take the volume of the cylinder and I'm going to subtract the volume of 3 tennis balls. And that'll give me my final answer. So I'm going to take 508.94 and subtract 339.3. And that will give me my final volume. 08. Okay, so what did you get for your total volume that's left over, the air pockets? Beautiful. 169.64 centimeters cubed. So it took a little bit of work, took some thinking, but you were able to solve that problem. I didn't give you any of the answers. All I did was ask you questions. Okay? So you're going to be able to do these types of things, but you're going to have to ask yourself some questions. What do you know? What do you need to know to answer the question? All right, we've got how much time left? Oh, we've got so much time left. Holy macaroni. Okay. I want you guys to try Number 3 should be very quick. I want you to do 3 and 6. 3 and 6, okay? So take some time right now. I want you to fill out number 3 and number 6, and then we're going to go over them. All right?
Awesome.
Go ahead and try number 3 and number 6. Yes, you can. Do in any order you want. I don't care if you do 6 first and then 3, but try 3 and 6 right now. The 4 is showing you the full diameter. Mm-hmm. Number 3 and number 6. And if you feel really confident, you can do more than those 2, but 3 and 6. Mm-hmm. No, radius is half from the center of the circle to the edge. So I gave you the diameter, which is 4. Radius is half of that. It would be 2 squared, which would be 4.
How about this? And I got this cube.
Because this is not a cylinder, this is a cone. You have to take this number and then divide it by 3. About 5 more minutes. Length times width times height.